everyone? Welcome back to the 16th episode of the Drunk Friend podcast. For the new and uninitiated, we're just a couple of YouTube guys. I'm Travis of Nest Friend, joined by Alex, SNES Drunk. Alex, how are things going with you these days, man?
Just trying to hang in there. Taking a little bit of a break from the YouTube thing, actually. It just felt like it was time, I guess. Wasn't a lot of energy or motivation, I guess. And really, this is kind of a time of year thing for me. Summers, especially in New Mexico, have a way of like really sapping your energy entirely. And yeah, it was the day before, and it was like Thursday's video's not done, and I started to feel stressed about it. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna stop myself right now. I'm not gonna force a video out there if I'm not feeling it. So it's just like, you know what? Maybe I should. I don't think I've missed a Tuesday since 2014, I think. So yeah, in all likelihood, there's not going to be a Tuesday video. In fact, I plan on not playing a single video game this whole weekend. We're recording this on a 4th of July weekend, but the day before the observed holiday 4th of July. So most of us out there are working stiffs, have Friday off. So American working stiffs, I should say.
Yeah, that's right.
I just wasn't, I don't want to force it. I was going to do, I had a list of arcade games. I have a huge list of arcade games that I wanted to do, and I was just like, I'm just not feeling it. So I think I need to take a break. I think I might, if I'm starting to feel stressed, then I don't want to mess with that. This shouldn't be stressful.
No doubt, man. Good for you. That's really solid. That's good to realize that and take the break. I mean, I think the worst thing for any of us being admirers of your work is to see you get burnt out and really make it a stressful thing. So yeah, definitely step back, take a deep breath, and collect yourself. And yeah, man, I think it's interesting though, because when we started the podcast, I still am blown away by the fact that it's been 6-7 years and you've not missed a release schedule or a release date, and you've been doing it twice a week for the longest time. So, I mean, your track record is impressive. It is kind of like ending Cal Ripken's streak, but I don't think it's going to be beat,
Playing through all those injuries with, like, sprained typing fingers, and, yeah, it's...
Do you have, you know how Cal Ripken had, like, the hat hair? Do you have, like, headphone hair? Do you have a bald spot across where the headphones hit?
I definitely do. A bald spot. I definitely do have, when my hair gets long, I get the indentation around my ears, and it looks pretty ridiculous. It's definitely headphone hair, especially since I wear these like noise canceling.
Oh yeah,
things that are they squeeze the old give the skull a good squeeze. So
yeah, no doubt, dude. I have also been neglecting getting a haircut through this, this is another side story. I was listening to this webinar for work, and this lady kept calling what we're all experiencing as the COVID times, and she kept saying, and it kind of kept cracking me up. She was like, these COVID times, I haven't seen times like this since 9/11 times, these COVID times, and it was just kind of cracking me up. But man, where was I going with that? Oh, yeah.
What an awkward way of phrasing it. COVID times. It sounds like a newspaper or something, yeah.
Yeah, that's how she's going to reference it like that forever, back in the COVID times. But I was going to mention, yeah, I haven't had a haircut through these COVID times, and my corn mullet, it's about to turn a corner. It's about to hit.
You're going full, what's that Oklahoma State coach's name again? Mike Gundy?
Yeah, I'm going full Mike Gundy. Yeah. I'm holding on to a pretty good Nash Bridges right now. I'm like a young MacGyver, but I'm saying, like, in the next month, look out.
Yeah, you got to go with the dry look, like the 70s. You got to kind of tease it up front a bit, like MacGyver did.
Yeah, definitely. Because I'm actually thinning out a little bit in the front, so I kind of have to make up for that by teasing it. Otherwise, I kind of look like I'm having a bit of a skullet, which you don't want. That's the bad one.
Sure you do. That's like, do you remember that ESPN commercial with John Clayton, where he's in his he's in his room, and he's got he turns around, and you see he actually he's bald, classic
Right.
male pattern baldness, but he's got like a big ponytail and he's in his room listening to Slayer.
That's
and
one of my
stuff like
favorite
that.
ESPN commercials ever.
Oh, it cracks me up. Yeah,
It's so good.
John Clayton. He's like this old dude that looks like kind of like the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah.
He's up there shouting at his mom from his room.
Man, I remember
Funny.
before COVID times when we had sports and I watched ESPN.
I know, right?
Speaking of getting sick, though, the other day seemed like you had a rough time.
Oh yeah, I was sweating to the oldies for sure. A little bit of a thing, a bug, I guess. I think it was the food I had. I had never had a burger from this place before, and I was like, I feel like a burger. The burger did not feel like me though, so I had a rough time last night. So
We called that a Michael Jordan Game 6 in it.
yeah, the old flu game. Even though he did technically have
It was like 61 points or something.
food poisoning. No, I don't think he went that crazy. I think he went like 45, 10, and 6 or something like that.
Still, I mean, if you add all those numbers up, there you go. 61.
Yeah.
That's what I
well,
meant.
yeah, there you go. You were just going for the all stats,
Yeah.
not just the separate
Yeah, didn't he
stats.
have 61 numbers near his name after that game? Pretty incredible.
Yeah, man. That's that was not fun. I've only had food poisoning a few times, and yeah, it's like an all-day thing
Ugh.
for me because I don't know, my body just does not enjoy being. It's almost like I don't like being sick.
Wow.
You know?
You're
it's
one of a kind.
weird how it works like that, but yeah, big if true, as they say.
All right. Speaking of big, we have 4 pretty girthy emails that we're going to read you today that came through
Girthy.
to the DrunkFriend podcast at gmail.com.
Girthy and frothy.
Oh, yeah.
Did I
Very
get
frothy.
everybody's imagination going.
Yeah. But hey, speaking of frothy, though, before we get going, you drinking anything?
Oh no, I'm going with water today.
Yeah.
I got to lay off the
You
orange
should probably
cider for a little
rehydrate.
bit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is probably a glass of water number 8 or 9, I think. But
Nice.
yeah, no, just water from you. What about you?
I'm drinking just a regular old Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, just
They have
run of the mill.
quality stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I got the I've been going deep on variety packs. So something about summertime and just having a bunch of weird options in the fridge is good. But the random pull just got me the old regular green label pale ale. But hey, it's pretty good.
It's just most of those summer beers are wheat beers, and I just can't do those. So
That's true.
I
Yeah.
stick with my usual harsh, dark, 12% beer.
Gosh.
So,
Seems like everything's out to get you, man. The New Mexico heat, the burgers down there, wheat. Are you even meant to live?
I've been saying, and my allergies are acting up, which is weird for July and June and summer in general. And I've always thought, the Earth just wants me dead at this point. It's doing everything it can to make sure that I just drop dead, one day, and because of all the pollen in the air, the ragweed. The big thing for me is ragweed. That stuff just destroys me. Like,
Wow.
I don't know if it's even in New Mexico or how close it is.
It's in Missouri, but you're still getting a hit off of it when the wind blows.
Oh, for sure, yeah, because it's there's mountains here. There's Sandia Peak right to the east of us, but there's not a whole lot of trees. It's the high desert, so there's a lot of flat land. So when the wind blows, it really frickin' blows. It can get really windy here, and you're getting stuff coming from all over. There was a fire not too long ago near Harris, I think, and we were getting the smoke from it, and that's like a freaking 45, like an hour drive. Like, I don't even remember how far it is, but
Wow.
yeah, and that was irritating my eyes and my sinuses and stuff. So yeah, the Earth wants me dead. That's about it.
Well, welcome back to Old Man Talking About the Weather again. We always get there. All right, let's get to some emails. First one here. This is, I think this is from one of your longtime watchers,
Oh yeah,
viewers.
Robert. I don't want to butcher his last name. Auguste Meyer. Sorry, buddy. He's a very cool guy who's been around a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I see his name a lot. He's very recognizable.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he says, "Greetings, sort of drunk friends. I'm currently playing the long-awaited Final Fantasy restored/rebalanced by Astral Esper. She's an old-school Final Fantasy ROM hacker who sure knows how to take her time. And it's really good. I was wondering if you two, and perhaps Pearl, are also into Final Fantasy ROM hacks, and which ones you like the most. Oh, in case you didn't know, the Final Fantasy NES message board on GameFAQs is still alive and kicking, often discussing the many versions of the original. All your base, Robert. Then he goes on to say here at the end, speaking for myself, I would prefer to hear your podcast more easily via YouTube because I love reading comments. And good news, Robert, the DrunkFriend YouTube channel is up and going, although it will remain several episodes behind the up-to-date podcast feed. But if you prefer to get them that way, you can. You'll just have to wait. But anyway, what do you think about these ROM hacks?
I'm not too familiar with NES ROM hacks. It is on my list of stuff I want to get to. And it's funny that Robert brought this up because he himself has a Final Fantasy ROM hack that he has authored himself.
Oh, wow.
I'm trying to find the name of it myself. I'm really sorry, Robert. Write us back and tell us the name of it so we can so we can promote it properly.
Yeah. You're fishing for a plug, but very cleverly. Good job, Robert.
I have it written down. I just don't remember which. You know, my SNES Drunk folder is a mess of just notes and stuff like that of stuff I've written down or stuff I've typed out, like notepad files and stuff. And his my ROM hacks one for NES is one of them, and his is like the first on the list. But yeah, I can't say I'm too familiar with most NES ROM hacks, to be honest with you. But I will say that it does definitely sound interesting because it's Final Fantasy Restored Rebalanced, and I love those kind of hacks because it's like taking, it's almost modernizing an older game. I'm wondering what they changed exactly. I'm guessing the far fewer random battles just to make things easier for people. Not sure what else would have been changed, but that seems like the most obvious one for me. But you're the NES expert. Do you have any?
Sorry, that caught me off guard. That's hilarious.
But what have you played many ROM hacks for good old NES?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm still, the whole channel's devoted to just making my way through the licensed and some of the unlicensed stuff. So I've not experimented outside of that. And in general, I'm a Final Fantasy noob. Very light experience with the first. I have played it some, and I think I've actually gotten pretty far. I've just not finished it. And the only one I've actually ever beaten is the number 2 on the SNES, which I guess is technically 4, or I don't know. The numbers are weird.
You are correct. That is accurate.
Right. So, I'm not an expert there. I'm sorry, Robert, but it does sound cool. And if I ever do dip into that, at least I know I have a good resource. So that's good.
Yeah, romhacking.net has a ton of stuff. And certain games have their own websites. Like I know the Link to the Past Randomizer has their own site with all sorts of different things and combinations you can do. Like you can combine the game with Super Metroid, so you can flip between the two games. It's crazy the stuff that people make. So big fan of ROM hacks. I'm just not all that familiar with a lot of NES ones. I know Castlevania is one that's received quite a few, and I kind of vaguely recall a Castlevania NES ROM hack from a long time ago that was pretty dang good, really impressive. But that's something on my list I got to get into for sure.
Cool. Well, thanks for that email, Robert. You've given us both something to think about.
So we got another email here. It says, hey, y'all, Chris from Kansas City again. My last question was pretty skewed heavily toward Alex, so this time I'll direct my question more toward Travis. I'm not the biggest fan of the NES. I certainly respect it, but it's one of my smallest collections because I have a hard time playing those games, either due to difficulty or lack of interesting gameplay. I've got the must-haves like Mario and Kirby, etc., and 1942, 1943, despite me being terrible at shoot-'em-ups. Well, what games would you suggest to an NES noob like myself that aren't terribly difficult and are also fun to play?
Huh. Well, thank you for thinking of me on this podcast, Chris. I really do appreciate it. You're not the biggest fan of the NES. It breaks my heart. But you put me in a tough spot because it's sometimes hard to teach an old dog even older tricks, But I do have a list of a few that you might enjoy. They're not too tough, and a few are really more enjoyable multiplayer. And these are ones you won't find on everyone's shelf per se, so they're not like ones that people are always talking about, but I think they're fun and they're still very affordable. One would be Kickle Cubicle. It's a pretty fun.
Oh yeah,
yeah, sort of top-down puzzle game. It sounds kind of kiddie and all that, but it's a good challenge. Music's good, looks good, it's fun. Another one is Jackal. I think that's a must-have if you have someone else to play with, especially. It's a great two-player game, Alex. I think you also like Jackal quite a bit.
Yeah, it's probably a top 20 NES game if I had my druthers.
Yeah.
By the way, when I originally did a video on Jackal, I kept calling it a tank, I think, the vehicle, and everybody was like, it's a Jeep. It's a Jeep. It's a Jeep. So I just like sunk into it and kind of leaned into it and pinned a comment at top like, let me know if you think this is a Jeep. Like the 400th person to point this out that this is a Jeep will win nothing, or something like that. And to this day, I still have some guy that like shows up every once in a while in the comments, and he ends his comments with "P.S. It's a Jeep." So I really enjoyed that. But yeah, Jackal is awesome, and it is 2-player, and it's that much more fun with a second player.
Yeah, it's a great time. Now I'm thinking if I ever get the Jackal, if I should troll everyone by calling it a tank, as a wink, or not make the same mistake and go Jeep. We'll see. Maybe I'll call it something else, like a horse with wheels. See what people say. Kabuki Quantum Fighter. That's another one that I think is it's kind of gaining traction just because it's kind of weird and people are discovering it because what does that even mean? But it is a lot of fun. It is of the more challenging ones, I think, but definitely an unsung good action platformer on the system. Also,
that's the headbanging game.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
You whip your hair around like Jason Newsted in Metallica.
There you go. Perfect.
And we'll talk about him later.
Dragon Spirit. That's another one. It's an arcade port, but you're a dragon flying around shooting stuff. It's pretty fun. Good. It's a shoot 'em up, but I think it's pretty accessible. And the last one I'll list is Guerrilla War, and the reason I like it is because it's infinite continues, so I mean you can get through it, but also it looks good, it plays good, and it's like Ikari Warriors if it were more forgiving. So it's a pretty good time. A lot of cool power-ups, weapons, also fun 2-player. So that would be my list of 5 to say, hey, these are affordable, they're not difficult, and pretty easy to find. But you didn't list out things like Punch-Out Contra, River City Ransom. If you don't have those, you should definitely put those in the library. For sure.
Yeah, I was going to say DuckTales, even Darkwing Duck, some of the Capcom Disney stuff, or even some of the Capcom stuff like Little Nemo is interesting.
Yeah, I was trying to go a little off the beaten path, but yeah, you should. There's some mainstays out there that are solid.
What was that? Dragon Spirit?
Dragon Spirit. Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't seen it with your arcade pillaging.
No, I have not. It sounds like that would, if it's an NES arcade port, then that probably goes back to late 80s, I'm guessing. So
yeah, 87.
Yeah, 87. Yeah, then I'm not as familiar with that era of arcade gaming.
Right on. That means you have a lot more videos to do.
Dum, dum, dum. Get to work. Get working right now.
But yeah, all right. Thanks for that email, Chris. We really appreciate it. Our next one here is from, he or she only go by the initials SK. Very mysterious.
He's missing an N there. It needs to be SNK.
There you go.
We got some real legitimacy. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole company just reaching out. Dear Drunk Friend, your podcast is so enjoyable. I listened to the entirety of a recent episode despite having zero interest in college sports. That's good. I was worried about that, Alex. I was like, people are going to hate this and unsubscribe. But this guy suffered through it, so thank you, SK. He says, you both share a good rapport, and that makes for great listening experience. They go on to say, on a side note, Earl was spot on when it comes to the pacing issues in Dungeons & Dragons. My kids got really into D&D Chronicles of Mystara.
Mystara, yeah, that's what it's called.
Recommended by SNES Drunk in arcade beat-em-ups not ported to the SNES. It's a great 4-player couch co-op, and wanted to try traditional D&D. I've been playing as DM for the kids, and they have heated debates over small actions. Keeping the story going is like herding cats sometimes. If you ever run out of topics and ideas, I think it would be entertaining for you to podcast your own D&D adventure. Why is that hard to say?
I don't know.
Jesus.
Too many D sounds.
Gosh, must be all this pale ale. As she has prior experience, a good sense of humor, and a desire to keep a game moving forward, Pearl could make a great DM if she opted not to resurrect her character. Imagine the fun times you could have alongside musty hobbits, hungry gorillas, super derricks, and those who cannot be tamed. Just a suggestion. Thank you both for all you do. Sincerely, S&K. It's SK, but with the N, it's more fun.
What a great email. I really like that idea. But yeah, I think Dungeons and Dragons is pretty dang slow. It's like I just want to go up the stairs, okay? I don't want to, debate about like you put your foot on the first step and it's, or whatever, I don't know. Like you just get bogged down in the details and stuff like that.
I have heard some fun D&D podcasts though. I mean, it's not impossible. I think it takes some really talented, not left-brained people.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And that's for those folks to just come up with that kind of stuff. I mean, I know there's books and guidance that give you, but there are people out there that can like pull that stuff like out of their heads, and it's like, how the heck do you do that? That's crazy. But
yeah. I was actually on a podcast where they did a campaign. It was like a Dungeons and Dragons adjacent campaign. And it was a lot of fun. For some reason, though, it never got published. I don't know if it was because I was particularly bad or what, or if I think there were supposed to be multiple parts, and for some reason the second one didn't schedule the recording, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, but you're right. It requires someone very talented to lead you through it. At least the DM has to be very savvy to make it entertaining for a listener.
Yeah. And that's a lot of pressure and a lot of effort and a lot of preparation. So I don't envy that person. By the way, D&D Chronicles of Mystara is like legit. Like, if I ever get a chance to own an arcade cabinet, that would be one of my choices. Like, that would be one I would definitely go after just to own. That's how good that game is. It's on the short list of cabs I want to track down, and maybe it'll sit in my office and collect dust one day. Who knows?
I was going to say, like, a short list of cabinets just has to be, the number that would fit in your house, right?
Well, the thing is I would like to I would like to keep practicality in mind, because as much as I would love to own the 6-player version of X-Men, that thing is going to weigh 800,000 pounds. It's going to take up like an entire room. And I love the game, but no, not going to do that. But otherwise, yeah, it would just be their typical stuff, basically, like NBA Jam and Mortal Kombat 2, a Street Fighter game. Maybe something weird from Data East, since they made so many strange games. Yeah, but Chronicles of Mystara, it would maybe even be my number one choice. It's that much fun. It's that good.
Wow. You heard it here, folks.
What arcade games are your go-tos when it comes to stuff like that?
Honestly, it is NBA Jam.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the one I'm most skilled at, so that's the one I gravitate toward.
Oh, that's right. You have a history with that game.
Yeah. I ranked runner-up in a tournament, so that makes me awesome. Not as awesome as 2 other guys, but pretty cool.
That is legit. What? And who did you say you played as?
We were, they were Charlotte. I think we were the Jazz.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Malone and
Stockton.
Sure.
Yeah. I can't remember. I do remember that the guys that won that tournament, and for listeners, just to clarify, this was at MagFest. There were these guys who were in this NBA Jam tournament. They had won it for, like, legend says, 6-7 years straight, well before I ever attended a MagFest. They had matching jerseys with their nicknames on the back. They also looked good at basketball. Like, they looked like if you had a basketball, they would beat you at the real game, too.
Oh.
So they were kind of threatening in 2 ways. And then my friend Dean and I, we entered the tournament. We'd practiced at a buddy's house who has a MAME cabinet. We'd played together. We were both... You want to look for that partner that's good at defense. Everybody's good at offense in NBA Jam, but you got to find that player that knows how to, get their shoves, get the steals, get the blocks, and
Yeah.
we were both pretty good at that. So when we got into the tournament, it seemed like everyone else that was in this tournament had played these guys before they knew them, and they were like, those guys are back, and no game was close. These guys were blowing guys out like 80-20, and it's, the quarters are super short. Like, it's hard to score 80 points against the computer. Like,
Yeah.
doing it against other people is insane. And they were blowing the doors off of everybody, and we had them like, it was like 45 to like 38 entering the fourth quarter, and we had them on their heels. Like, they were ahead of us and kind of comfortably, but they had never been this close to losing, at least as far as I could tell. And not that day, they weren't. But we ended up losing by like 15, 20 points. And still pretty cool, though. I mean,
That is
it
really
won the
cool.
respect of everybody in the room that these two dudes could just walk in and put up a good NBA Jam battle. So it was cool.
Defense wins championships, folks.
That's what they say.
Yeah, that's
what they say.
That's what they say. Yeah, you're like the Jeff Fisher Tennessee Titans of NBA Jam. Where you just grind it out, make them play sloppy. Like that's can be appreciated.
Absolutely, man. It's my only claim to fame in life.
Other than that whole doctor thing, you
Screw
bring
all
up
that, man.
constantly. And
If I could have walked away with that NBA Jam trophy, I would have immediately dropped out of school.
go on the professional circuit.
Yeah.
Next, or last, I should say, we have an email from Lowlife Dirtbag.
Oh man,
And
who's that?
This is addressed to me. It says, Drunk Friend. Well, it's addressed to Drunk Friend, but he says, I'm a big fan of the podcast. I just wanted to let Alex know that I bought the SNES game Uncharted Waters New Horizons from SuperGameStation.com simply so that he could not get it. I have no interest in this game, and I don't even own a Super Nintendo. I am slightly fearful that Alex will show up outside my house now, though. He is jacked, and he used to play football in high school. Just last week, I heard a commotion outside my window in the early morning hours and looked out to see Alex flipping my car over and carving his name on the undercarriage with a shark tooth necklace. Completely frozen by fear, I could do nothing but helplessly look on as he ravaged my only form of transportation. Wow. I fear that the next time he comes, he will not only take my Super Nintendo copy of Uncharted Waters New Horizons, but also my life. And I will be powerless to stop it. He used to play middle linebacker, and he could have made a career out of it had he not decided to work at the community college and start a YouTube channel. Yeah, it's like community college, NFL middle linebacker. What am I going to go? Which direction should I go? And then it's just, he closes it out, sincerely, Lowlife Dirtbag.
Jeez, this guy.
man.
I mean, he's got you pinned down, dude.
Well, I'm just glad he's not the type that calls the cops, because that could have been a bad situation there. But no, he's just messing with me. I actually did get the game though.
Nice,
and I'm really happy with it. Yeah, they shipped it super fast. It was like 2-day shipping.
Super fast,
And-
super game station.
Yeah, and I love the game because you've got 6 different story paths to take with 6 different characters. There's like your typical pirate. There's another guy that just wants to map the world. There's a merchant, that sort of stuff. And it's kind of like Sid Meier's Pirates, but not quite as polished as that game. But it's easily the best Koei game on the Super Nintendo, I think.
Right.
But yeah, it sucks that I had to resort to such violence to get the game from this guy and destroy a perfectly good 1976 Pinto. But you got to do what you got to do. It's hopefully you learned a Lowlife Dirtbag learned a lesson.
Yeah, I mean, don't undercut SNES Drunk. And why are you listening to this podcast if you don't own a Super Nintendo? Like, what are you even doing? Does he just watch the videos and he's like, well, that would be neat?
Yeah, that might be fun. Eventually, one day. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, thank you for that email. The fun ones are fun.
That was hilarious. I got a really good laugh when I first saw that. So thank you for that.
All right. Speaking of things that are awesome, we're going to kick it into the 90s music hour where I get to act like Howard Stern, and we're just going to play you some tracks tonight.
Lay some tracks down. Your speakers will come on fire, man. That's how fire this discussion's going to be, because we're going to talk about our first cassettes or CDs, concerts, what we first got ourselves into, music early on. Like, what was your first exposure to music and all that sort of stuff? How did you get? What was like your first favorite band?
All right, so I actually remember this very vividly. It's a very concrete moment in my life. I think I'm a little bit younger than you, so I was born in 1985, and so
Yep.
When 1990 hit, the legitimate 90s, I lived with a 16-year-old girl, my sister, and she was all into the hair metal, as you could imagine. Her wall was plastered with ripped out magazine pictures of every long-haired, lipstick-wearing metalhead, hair metalhead of the era. Poison, your Def Leppards. I mean, I could go on and on. They were all there. She loved all of them.
Was she even into like the lesser known ones like L.A. Guns and like Firehouse and
yes, actually
like
she went to see Firehouse.
Oh, nice.
In 1990, they opened for Warrant, and I obviously didn't get to go, but my mom and dad had to take her there because she was meeting a boy, and they were going there together.
Uh-oh.
But my mom, she dropped her off at the Civic Center. My mom and dad did, and then we came back and we picked her up after, obviously to make sure she was okay, and came home. It was the 90s, but we had all seen Unsolved Mysteries. We knew people disappeared after concerts, so we made sure she got home okay. But I had, she had this Warrant T-shirt, this She's My Cherry Pie T-shirt for forever, and she left it when she moved out, and it ended up being like my night shirt. It was huge. It was like an extra large. My sister's not a big person. I don't know why she got a baggy, super baggy shirt, but I wore a Warrant T-shirt well after it was cool.
Well after it was cool. I was going to say well before.
Yeah, I don't know why
Really?
I said before. Very, very, very long after. But to speak of that, when I was 5, I got a tape cassette player. Really wanted one. I idolized what my sister did. She loved listening to music. She had a nice stereo. She was just blasting some tunes. So I kind of grew up listening to, hair metal is what it is. I still think it's good music to an extent. I've certainly grown past it. It's not my favorite thing now. But at the time, it was really cool. And it was loud and it was awesome. So when I got my cassette player for my birthday when I was 5, my mom got me like this Muppet Babies and some Fraggle Rock. Now, don't get me wrong, I was down. I listened to them, front and back. But I remember going to my sister and saying like, "Hey, sissy, can I borrow one of your tapes?" And she lent me 2. The first was Aerosmith's Permanent Vacation.
Oh, great choice.
Which was great. It had Ragdoll on it. Dude looks like a lady. Oh, man. It was so good. And so the B-sides on that are great, too. And then she also lent me, and I can't remember the name of the album, but it was Robert Palmer, which is a little more poppy of the time, but very catchy still.
Well, face it. Yeah.
Yes, that very one.
Hits.
So those are like my only 2 tapes for a year. So for like, until I was 6, I was an expert in those 2 tapes. And that shaped me musically. I don't know how I don't know if that's good or bad, but I am of that pedigree.
And Aerosmith. Like, you could have given me 1,000 guesses. I think Aerosmith may have been one, but I'm definitely not guessing Robert Palmer.
Yeah, right.
And he wasn't like a one-hit wonder. He had a few good, and of course, for those that don't know, his claim to fame were his music videos with all the women that all had their makeup done. They're wearing the tight dresses, and they look really uninterested in what's going on. And
almost like he didn't pay them enough. It's weird.
Yeah. And like, when's our lunch break? Like, how long do we have to sit here? But yeah, it's funny you say that, though, because I have a very similar kind of upbringing with music for me, too, because my sister, she's 10 years older than me. So she was, so it's kind of similar. Like, she was... 16 when I was 6, and I was just kind of discovering music. I'll never forget just going through her tapes and opening up the cassette for Appetite for Destruction and seeing like the artwork in there, and it's got like that monster and that woman on the street and stuff, and I was just like, whoa, this is the craziest stuff ever. And when my parents would leave, my sister would put, that would be her first choice, was to put Appetite for Destruction, and she would ask me, like, hey, what song do you want to hear? And I wanted to hear Night Train.
Yeah.
Which is pretty ironic, considering that that song is about a alcoholic beverage. But
right. Which, I didn't understand most of the lyrics I heard growing up until I was in my 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the lyrics are pretty, I'll just say they're out there. Like,
oh, yeah.
It's so easy, and My Michelle and stuff like that. Yeah, there's some pretty rough stuff in there. But in addition to that, like you, I ended up getting some like Fisher Price cassette thing, and so my sister was like, classic sister move. She was like, oh hey Alex, I can give you a tape, and she gives me White Snake's Slip of the Tongue. And the only reason she gave me that is because she thought it had "Here I Go Again" on it, and it didn't.
It wasn't even the good White Snake album?
No, it was the one that came after, and it was bad.
Oh no!
So yeah, I got stuck with that as my first tape. After the first tape I bought with my own money was actually Roxette, "Look Sharp," because I loved. What was the first track on it? I got all their songs confused eventually, but I think it was, Look Sharp was one of their singles, and She's Got the Look. I think it was just called. I loved that song.
I still like it. I dig it.
Yeah, I like that. Roxette is good. I heard the singer passed away not too long ago, and I was really bummed out to hear about that. But
is Joyride, is that the one you're thinking of?
That might have been on there too, yeah.
I can't remember.
The thing is, though, here's how much of a prude I was when I was a kid growing up. She, very attractive woman, the singer of Roxette, and she's on the cover and in the liner notes. You can see like her bra and her bra strap.
Ooh.
So I'm like, I can't let anybody know that I have this, because I was so embarrassed and like. Like just like ashamed. I never would have gotten this had it had this in it. I was so prudish.
So funny.
So I didn't really listen to it that much. I do remember the next tape I ended up getting was Crisscross.
Wow, you were all over the map.
Yeah, I was MTV was my big exposure. So I watched a lot of Daisy Fuentes Top 20 Countdown, and I would, stay up and sometimes watch Yo MTV Raps. Just because those guys were so damn funny. The Ed Lover dance is legendary. Love that guy. And yeah, it's that was next. And of course, I'm sure you did this too. There was the classic refined art of recording songs off the radio.
Oh yeah.
Did your tape player have that capability?
It did. A little more embarrassingly, though, and I'm sure I did it a lot, but I grew up in the country, and there's not a lot of good rock radio. And so I did go through a spell where, probably the ages of 7 to 9, spending a lot of time with my dad out in the pickup truck. I got a little into country music. I remember recording country songs off the radio more than I do 90s, like rock.
Sure, yeah.
But I remember being like crazy about Billy Ray Cyrus's Achy Breaky Heart. Like calling in the radio station and being like, I'm 8 and you need to play this. I need this right now because I'm going to record it. Like, but yeah.
Just don't think you understand. Wasn't that like the advent of line dancing too? Was it started to get really popular with that song, or am I way off on that?
I mean, I'm no expert in line dancing, but it was very popular in the video.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what I'm thinking of. It was the line dance in the video.
Yeah.
And 90s country, I just remember Garth Brooks being this like huge mega superstar.
Sure, yeah.
He kind of changed everything, because before that, the only country music I knew were my dad's old records from the 70s of like George Jones and Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings and those kinds of guys, Johnny Cash. And then all of a sudden you got like Alan Jackson and these other guys Garth Brooks was the big one, and it's like, is this even country music anymore? Like, is this just like pop? Like, what's happening? I remember just being very confused by that.
Yeah, it did feel very different. Yeah, and I've had this conversation with my buddy Jake, who we'll share a little bit from later. But we, having grown up, and perhaps where we did, but also just being around your parents and they're listening to their music in the vehicle, and my parents listen to country music. I don't remember loving or hating it then per se. It was just kind of on, but I definitely soaked it in. And to the point now that when I hear music, country music from that era, there was a time where I was completely turned off by it and was like, "Blech, turn it off." But I've kind of hit an age where it's kind of nostalgic, and if I'm around other people that know it, I have no issue just singing along.
Yeah.
I've kind of hit that point.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's not like Nickelback or anything like that, where it's like, oh God, I can't have positive affiliations with this pandering nonsense. But yeah, no, that's. Did you see any of those bands live? Because I'm sure they're gonna tour. Like somebody like Alan Jackson, they're definitely gonna hit up your neck of the woods, I would think, right? Especially with the college town nearby.
I don't think so, actually. I mean, I know I never been to. Well, I will say, growing up, I never went to a country concert of any merit. And even now, if I have to go to a good rock concert, I have to travel pretty far out. But I will say, after the Nashville floods a few years ago, maybe a decade ago at this point, Garth Brooks did put on like some cheaper, affordable shows at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, and I was like, nah, YOLO, and I went. And he's a great entertainer. I think he's kind of a psychopath, but he's still pretty good on stage. Like, he holds up.
That dude scares me. Yeah, he gets so into it. He has so much energy. It's like, how did this guy do this? But
yeah, and he refers to himself in the third person as G, and that's really weird too.
That's funny because my nephew's nickname is G. So it's just some weird connotations there.
Yeah, it's strange.
Little 14-year-old kid. G.
But enough about country. Let's go into the grunge era, because I think that's where probably we became more formative with our music tastes.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll never forget first discovering, and again, it was MTV, seeing the video for Smells Like Teen Spirit, and it was so different from everything, because we're used to seeing, like you talked about earlier, hair metal. We're used to seeing, prancing around on stage, doing flips and kicks and, shaking their hips and stuff like that, like Poison, Motley Crue. And it was all very polished and very, like, high production value. And here's Nirvana in this, like, dingy gym. And you can't even see the drummers. You can't even see Dave Grohl's face because he's headbanging so hard. And, you can't understand the words, but it's still strangely catchy and melodic. And it was an earworm. It got stuck in your head, but it was heavy as hell and energetic. And there's a reason that song changed so much, because Cobain had a real gift for melody. He knew how to come up with catchy melodies, and that was his. People always talk about him as a guitar player. He wasn't that good of a guitar. It's like, you're missing the point. He was a great singer, and he was a great at coming up with sing-song melodies.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge trait for really any successful band of that era. Like James Hetfield, not even a great singer, not the best guitar player, but when you put all that in one package, he's
it works.
Yeah, responsible for some of the some of the better riffs and melodies of that time. So yeah, I mean, I have these conversations with my friends too, where I think a lot of them are really jaded and just sort of over, and certainly the grunge era has been overplayed since, and that's it's lost its luster, and people are quick to turn on it, but they kind of forget what it was back then. I mean, a lot of the music today wouldn't exist, and a lot of I won't say exist, but it certainly, I don't know, it mainstreamed a lot of the darker side, I guess, of music, or at least opened the door to angst that wasn't really already open.
Well, Cobain talked about this himself. I'm still a big Nirvana fan. I love In Utero is probably my favorite album, just because it feels kind of unhinged and crazy. But he's talked about in the past, in the past, of course, but just edit that out. He talked about, as soon as Smells Like Teen Spirit and Nevermind as a whole got as popular as it did, then it just became a contest of like who can find the next Nirvana. So we're gonna sign every single band that kind of looks and sounds and plays like Nirvana. So we were just inundated with all this other sound-alike stuff. And there's a funny story from the band Collective Soul. I don't know if you remember them.
I love them actually.
They were their big hit was Shine. And this would have been like 94, 95. I think it was 95, actually. I think I was in 8th grade. But pretty good song. I like it. It definitely sounded a little different, but it still had that kind of like grunge aesthetic.
Absolutely.
So the what's funny, though, is that the singer was interviewed about the video that they shot years later. And, the I forget what record label signed them or whatever, but they were under orders basically to like, okay, we're gonna make a video for this song, and you guys are your hair's gonna be down and in your face, and you're gonna be wearing flannel and torn jeans, and the singer was just like, we don't do that though, that's not what we are. And he's like, I don't care, if your video is gonna get any airplay, you have to dress like this. Wow. And then, and sure enough, that song became a pretty big hit. It was everywhere for like a few months. But then after that, all of a sudden you've got other. You see the band for who they really are. You hear their other songs. You hear songs like December and Gel.
Yeah,
and
that's a great album.
They don't sound anything
no.
like grunge or anything like that. So I just thought that was funny. That's just how the world was. People act like that's still, it's a new thing to find a sound-alike or rip-off or whatever. Or, every game has got to be Souls-like now. It's like, no, that's just how every medium ends up being. It's like, we need to find the next this.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of going after, the first something else.
Yeah, I mean, everybody that has a marketing interest in anything is going to try to copy the best. I mean, how many times? I mean, even in sports, like the next Jordan, the next.
Oh yeah, there you go.
You always want the
Kobe's never going to be the next Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Speaking of Collective Soul, it reminded me of a thing. Did you ever do this? Did you ever get the the Columbia House or the was it the BMG or was it BGM?
Yeah, the CD thing.
Yeah, the buy 11 or whatever for the price of one.
My sister did that like crazy. She abused the hell out of it. Yeah, she was the one that did that. I did not. I think they were starting to like kind of fall out of style by the time I got my CD player. I was stuck with cassettes until I think I was like 14 or so.
Okay.
And then CDs became a thing. But yeah, no. Did you do that stuff though?
Yeah, I did it one time and kind of conned my mom into letting me do it. But man, I loved it because that Collective Soul CD, the one with December on it and Gel, was one of the ones I got. That's how you just jogged that memory for me. But yeah, it was a good time. I also got Shaq. Remember when Shaq rapped for like a minute?
Yeah, and I pointed that out when I did the video for Shaq Fu. I pointed that out, as kind of like a not so successful thing, and I got a whole bunch of people saying like, Shaq's a good rapper. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I was like, he is? I don't know. I wouldn't know. I don't take the time to listen to Shaq rap, of all things.
Because I was, I guess, 11 or 12 when I conned my parents into doing that, I was interested in the Shaq CD. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely worse rap albums. It was okay.
Yeah.
I'd give it a 3 out of 5.
3 out of solid 3
solid
out of
3.
5.
Yeah.
It's not enough to get my endorsement.
No, it doesn't need your endorsement.
I still don't think I'm going to.
But you might be impressed and say, "Wow, this isn't as bad as Shaq Fu." You might say that.
Oh, well, that's certainly within the realm of possibility. I think even stubbing your toe is better than Shaq Fu. But we touched on Nirvana. What were some of the other big name bands that you were into back in the day? Yeah,
so when I got my CD player, which I remember was for my 12th birthday, 11th birthday, 1996. I remember I got 2 CDs. I was still big into Aerosmith at this time, so I got Big Ones, which was hot.
Oh,
so all
yeah,
the 90s hits, some of the late 80s ones. great record, and some new stuff on it. And I also got Soundgarden's newest, because I was a really big Soundgarden fan.
That would have been Down on the Upside?
Yes, Down on the Upside. And they had just released Burden in My Hand, which I liked the video for. I really liked the song. And I was like, man, I got to have this CD. And I bugged my parents for it. And they could not find it anywhere. Like, within our county, it wasn't in our Walmart. We didn't have a lot of, like, CD stores. And I don't know if you've ever heard of, like, the shopping center Roses. But, maybe it's a regional thing. But there was one in, like, a town over. My dad worked with a guy whose wife worked there, and they got her to put it on layaway. Like, it was this whole ordeal just to get me the CD I really, really wanted. But it was awesome. I mean, I think it was the last one they put out before they broke up. Is that right?
Yeah, unfortunately it was. Yeah. Soundgarden were like my band. They were like, I loved them more than any other band at the time. They were like my thing, and what I was known for among my friends. It's like, oh, Soundgarden, that's Alex. You know,
oh, wow.
I had like 3 different Soundgarden shirts, and yeah, I was really, really into them. That started with Super Unknown, and I went backwards from there. Super Unknown went backwards from there with Bad Motorfinger and Louder Than Love, and just Chris Cornell's voice, their guitar sound, the fact that they didn't write conventionally. They had some weird. Well, the best example is a track on Down on the Upside. It's called Never the Machine Forever.
Yeah.
And it's got this weird rhythm to it, and it's and it's like no other band was doing stuff like that, or at least not that I knew of, and that made them so much more interesting to me as a kid. And of course, Chris Cornell's voice, like soaring over everything, was just awesome.
Yeah.
Too. But yeah, no, I was hardcore into Soundgarden. Those, it was hard not to be into all those bands. Like, I wasn't that crazy about Pearl Jam, especially after, I really liked Vitology, but I forget what came out. I think it was No Code came out after that. And that one was kind of, I wasn't thrilled with that one. Stone Temple Pilots were okay. I thought Purple was pretty good, actually. I still listen to Purple every once in a while. Smashing Pumpkins here, too.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal for me in 8th grade when that double album came out. And that felt like the biggest deal ever. I was like, holy crap, this is 80 gazillion songs.
Yeah, it was a ton.
And all of it was good, and, super high production value. Their videos were really interesting and cool and stuff. And it was a huge range of different styles. Like, they had some tracks on that album that were, like 1979. That's just a pop song.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Then you got Bullet with Butterfly Wings, which will kick your ass.
Dude, I love that song. I want to jump back to Soundgarden for a minute. What's your favorite song? You have a favorite?
I can't pick one. I will say, it's really changed a lot over the years.
Right.
Like Suicide was always a favorite.
Oh, that's a good one.
Especially when he does it by himself.
The
with
acoustic?
just a 12-string. Yeah. That's always been way up there. I really like their grittier old stuff, like Gun. I think it's track 3 on Louder Than Love. That riff kills. That just destroys. It's awesome. God, that's hard to pick. What would yours be?
I think probably my favorite in thinking about, like, the one I listened to the most growing up. I really love The Day I Tried to Live. That might be.
Oh, yes.
That might be number one for me.
That is way up there for me too. I remember the first time I heard that at my friend Adam's house. He was a huge Soundgarden fan too, and we would go to his house after school. We were in like 6th grade at the time, and he he had a guitar and he was learning, and we would listen. That was the first time I heard Soundgarden. I remember Day I Tried to Live came on. I was like, man, this song just freaking gets your blood going.
Dude,
it's got that
good.
It's got that great chorus melody. It
has some really good lyrics too. It has some like Deep If You're 13 lyrics, but they still kind of hold true for me, so I don't hate on them. But
sure,
they're really solid. Also, like Jesus Christ Pose, just that
oh my God.
riff at the beginning.
Oh man, and Matt Cameron, the drummer, has he says that's the toughest song to play.
No doubt.
And he's like, when I see that on the set list, I'm like, okay, deep breaths. Let's get going here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was lucky enough to see Soundgarden live right after I moved to Albuquerque, actually, in what was that, 2014, 2015, and yeah, saw the guys, and they played that, and I was nervous going into that show because I didn't think Cornell's voice would hold out.
Oh man, he still had it though.
Yeah, he definitely had it, and he crushed that song. And yeah, it was one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Yeah, so that's a good segue, because so I've seen Soundgarden twice. I saw them once. They when they first the last time that they got back together here, their first tour, they were opening for 9 Inch Nails, and I saw them.
Oh yeah,
that was incredible.
That's the same tour I saw them on. Yeah.
Oh, it was incredible. It was very cool.
Yeah.
And then I saw them again in 2017 at the Carolina Rebellion, 1 week before he passed away.
Oh my god!
I got lucky. I mean, honestly, I got lucky to see him right there at the end. Like, I almost didn't want to go to that, and I'm a little upset still because they were the last act, and I remember actually saying this. My buddy Jake was with me there, and it was getting late. And again, they were the last act, and we wanted to get a beat on Traffic. It's a big music festival. We were like, all right, we'll catch Soundgarden again. Man, I've already seen them once. This is a great show. And I think I listened to them play. I can't remember what song. I think maybe they played Black Hole Sun. I was like, I just wanted to hear that one, then we can peace out. And I wish I'd have stuck around to the very end, man. But yeah, that was really tough. And just having seen them so recently, and then rolling over, that morning and seeing a text from Jake who had gotten the news already, it was sick for like a week. Like it sucked.
That is by far the hardest. It's easy to be like, well, it's a celebrity and you don't know them personally, but you kind of do feel like you know them personally because you've been listening to their music for 20-some years or however long.
Yeah, the guy's been singing in my ear for 30 years. Like,
yeah, I'll never forget that. I got out of bed, I turned my computer on, Twitter, Chris Cornell is trending, and I click on it, and he's gone. Like, yeah. I was in it took me like a full day to for that to process. And I remember that was the day I signed up for Sirius XM satellite radio because they were playing a concert of his that he did with, it's a solo show. He did with a few other people, where he was playing some of his songs. He was playing Soundgarden songs, and it was just acoustic. There was a cello player. There was another guitar player. I forget what else there was, but and I just listened to that all day, and yeah, that was rough. Yeah, that probably was the hardest hit music, or even really any famous person death for me. Even Kurt Cobain, that was shocking at the time. I remember I was sleeping over at my friend's house. We were up all night playing NES games, and we got up and went upstairs, and MTV News is on. And,
that famous Kurt Loder.
Kurt Loder,
yeah.
That's right. Yeah, he was going on and on about Kurt Cobain. And I'm like, what happened? And my friend's mom very flippantly said, "Oh, Kurt Cobain shot himself."
Jeez.
I was like, "What? Are you freaking?"
And you're like, real? What, 12 or 13?
I was
maybe?
12. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just turned 12, and
That's
I was
hard news to take.
It was just weird. It didn't seem real. I remember though, a few months before that, there was an MTV News thing of he overdosed, I think, in Rome, Italy. I forget if it was heroin or pills or benzos or what it would have been. But I remember that was like a big scare. Like he OD'd and he's in the hospital and the tour is canceled and that sort of stuff. And yeah, so it wasn't like completely out of nowhere, but I do remember the way she said that, "Oh, Kurt Cobain shot himself." And it's just like, huh? Like, yeah, really jarring. But
wow.
Let's talk about something a little more fun.
Yeah. Let's talk about Alice in Chains. Nothing bad ever happened to anybody in that band.
I did see Jerry Cantrell and his band live at First Avenue. They did play Down in a Hole. I can't remember what else. They played a lot of stuff off the self-titled one with the three-legged dog.
Yeah.
They played like Frogs, which was really cool.
Yeah, I got lucky and actually saw them, of course, with William Duvall being the front man. I saw that they came pretty local to me, actually. This was when I think they were touring the first Get Back Together album. Always catch bands when they get back together. I didn't get to see them in the 90s, right? In the heyday. So they came to it was a little venue, too. It seems like they warranted more. I was actually very surprised that the place didn't sell out. But, dude, Duvall sounds great. It sounds a lot like, I mean, he can play the old stuff. It sounds great.
Yeah, he's definitely impressive as heck. I'll be honest with you, Alice. If I were to rank the four, or it's always the big four. It's in the Seattle bands. It's Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains is I wouldn't say a distant fourth, but they're pretty solidly fourth. I love their quieter stuff, their EPs. Like Sap and Jar of Flies. I think those are awesome. I Stay Away is probably my favorite song from them. What about you?
I'm pretty big into them. I would put them ahead of Pearl Jam. Although I do like 10 a lot.
Yeah.
It might be the strongest album of either between the two bands in my eyes. But I don't know, there was something about that sound, that harmony, and just, Jerry Cantrell just knows how to make a guitar sound filthy. Like, it just sounds sticky. And I like some of those riffs where it's like, wow, this is grungy as hell. This is like the definition. So I like a lot of the stuff that they do that's, I don't know, maybe not even radio friendly just because it's so grungy sounding.
The song that comes to mind is actually a newer song they did. I think it's called Check My Brain.
Yeah.
And just that riff, that guitar sound. It sounds like an airplane going into a dive.
Yeah, like you have bees in your helmet. Like, it does. Like, you should be afraid of whatever it is. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. No, that sound is really. I got really hooked on that song for like a few months.
Yeah, it kicks. Yeah, I like that one. I like No Excuses. Stay Away is good. Down in a Hole is probably my favorite sing-along, just because I think I that's, of all the Lane Staley tracks, that's the one where in my car by myself, I think I'm getting close on that range.
You're belting that one out.
Yeah, man, that's a fun sing-along. And that's another thing about them too, is that I feel like a lot of their tracks and a lot of their choruses are very sing-along friendly, which honestly, it helps me out a lot when to like a band if I can also belt it by myself alone in my car, of course.
Absolutely. And I think that's true of every band we've talked about so far, really, like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, even like Scott Weiland. That was the thing about these bands. They were all rock bands. They all sounded a little similar to each other in that they were, 4 or 5 piece rock bands, but their singers, their voices, like Eddie Vedder, Billy Corgan, if you heard like just 1 second of one song, you immediately know who it is.
Oh yeah,
they're just very, very, very distinctive. I think some of that's been lost recently in recent years with a lot of modern music. Like, there aren't very many distinct voices or distinct melodic senses, I guess you could say. Yeah, you can even go down the line with guys like Mike Patton.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Trent Reznor guy, but he had a really distinctive voice. You knew it was him immediately. You could even say guys like Morrissey on the Smiths. Like, I don't like Morrissey, but I mean, I know it's him immediately. Anthony Kiedis is another one.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like that's kind of a lost art where folks have it takes 1 split second. It's like, oh, that's Radiohead, that's Tom York or whatever.
And honestly, I think a big part of that too, I'll defend modern music a little bit and say, because the way that we ingest music is so fragmented, we're not all listening to the same thing. Because I remember, like, in the 90s, they were playing those bands over and over and over, and it was to the point where I could hear a chord and be like, that's this band, this song, this album. That's this band, this song, this album. But now we don't have that shared music listening experience. Everyone's taking in precisely what they want to listen to. While music is like ubiquitous and extremely shareable, aside from, the Discord feature where I can kind of, spy on what other people are listening to, I don't really listen to music with other people. So I don't get that connection to a lot of bands, and I end up funneling down and just listening to the same stuff I grew up listening to a lot of the time. But I think there's something to, I just don't take in a lot of new music for some reason or another.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point. I guess all we're left with when it comes to a communal experience with music is just concerts. Because, radio stations, like, who listens to regular FM radio now? You know what I mean? Like, who wants to put up with all
honestly,
those... Who wants to listen to all those freaking commercials?
Email us at drunkfriendpodcast@gmail.com if you listen to the radio.
Who listens to FM radio if it's not like, at least AM radio has like the weather and news and like, out here we get the Dodgers.
Yeah.
So
because podcasts are your radio now. We're your radio now.
Yeah, that's right. Look at me. I am the radio now.
I think you have a pretty fun story regarding a certain band on this list here that I want to get to. But first, I want to let people know how they can perhaps take in more music content on our little podcast network if they want to. My podcast co-host, Jake, from the Polykill podcast. For those of you who don't know, if you haven't gone over and listened to the Polykill podcast, I'm joined there by Jake. We talk about video games, but Jake actually... music is probably more his passion than video games. He writes for a journalistic thing online. He's extremely versed in all genres of music, inside and out. Knows the modern stuff inside and out, all of that. And he's starting a podcast called Music That Makes Me, where he points toward a certain genre of music, a certain band, maybe some songs, and talks about the emotions that music kind of elicits. So it's not your typical music podcast where it's like what we're doing, which is just reminiscing. It's a little more tangible than that, and it's something that I think a lot of people can take from. And so I want to play this plug from Jake for his new podcast that's coming out. Hopefully some drunk friends will check it out, give it a download, and maybe learn about some new music that they hadn't heard before.
Hello everyone, this is Jake from Polykill. I'm here to let you know that I'm working on a brand new music podcast called Music That Makes Me, and it's about my musical journey and how different emotions and ideas and adjectives sort of factor into my musical experience, and I want to share that with you so maybe you can find something cool to listen to you haven't heard before. So stay tuned for that. We'll update you on Polykill or DrunkFriend when that is available.
All right, so that was Jake. Hopefully you guys check that out. You can go to polykill.com. We'll let you know when it's coming out, and you can hopefully download that. And I got that out of the way because I don't know that Jake is the biggest fan of Tool, but Alex, I think I've been saving this part of the show for last because I think very early on in our casual text-to-text relationship, when Tool came up, I think we kind of knew this relationship was going places. We both like Tool. We both like video games. We're bros for life. So you're a big Tool fan, right?
I am. I have a very long, storied, and complicated history with the band Tool because, when I first discovered them, I think I heard Stinkfist on the radio. Oh my God! It's like hook this up to my veins right now. Like this is everything I've ever wanted. It would just hit every It checked off everything off the list. Had the awesome gritty guitar sound, great drums, the angry, pissed off singing. So I went and got that, and I went and got Undertow a few weeks later. And I actually ended up meeting Pearl through the band Tool, through a friend. And we did not get along well at first. Yeah, no, I was a much different person when I was in my 20s. I was really kind of pissed off and, cynical and just not a pleasant person to be around. And Pearl was Pearl. She was, extremely, just bubbly and happy. She's a fun person to be around. She's the type of person where it's like, you don't get along with Pearl? What's your problem? Like, there's something wrong with you if you don't like her. So... I'm biased when I say that, obviously, but I know that just goes to show like how the connection that I have with Tool. I met her through, so I've known her for almost 20 years now, and
wow.
It's all because
so your review is 20s Alex was not worth meeting today.
No, hell no! Don't ever meet that guy. Freaking slam the door in his face.
Don't meet that guy any way you can.
Well done. Well done. Yeah, it was so okay. I really liked Tool. Lateralus came out and I just wasn't feeling it all that much. There's a few tracks on there I like, but I just didn't. It seems like I didn't like the more polished sound that they had. I didn't like the drum circle type stuff they were starting to do, and all like the Alex Gray imagery and all that. I just wasn't really feeling that. And then so fast forward to 2006. Everybody's on edge for the next Tool album. It's been 5 long years. There's rumors and all that sort of stuff. And at the time, in 2006, I wrote and recorded music. And I did it by myself in my crappy 1-bedroom apartment on a Tascam 424, which is like a little 4-track recorder that you can, layer 4 different tracks on. And what I would do is I would take this crappy drum machine, come up with a beat and sequence it a certain way, put it on one track, put guitar on the next track, bass on the next track, and my vocals on the next track. And what I liked to do back then was I like to kind of make fun of bands, in a loving way. Like So what I can do, what I was hoping to do with Tool is that I wanted to kind of make fun of them because their fans, and Jake will attest to this, fans can be kind of obnoxious. And Tool fans in particular, kind of obnoxious. And I'm guilty of being kind of annoying too. But anyway, the point is, what I ended up doing was I made a song making fun of Tool, and
I even pinched my nose and tried to sound like Maynard, and this is how he talks. He's very comfortable and very vulnerable.
And that just came naturally to me, and it cracked my friends up. So I was like, okay, I'll do a full Tool song, and all the lyrics are just about like how they're big rich rock stars and all their fans are idiots and they'll buy anything they put out and that sort of stuff. So I send this to my friend Drew. He listens to it and he's like, you know what you have to do with this, right? I'm like, no, what? He's like, you got to put this, and this is 2006, you got to put this on MySpace.
Ooh.
And pass it off as a real song. And I'm like, nobody's going to buy that. It's one guy recording a song by himself in an apartment. This doesn't sound like Tool. He's like, no, dude, I think people are going to people are going to get fooled by this. So I created a MySpace and called it was just myspace.com/new Tool single or something like that.
Yeah.
And it ended up getting something like 4,000 plays in a couple days, and it ended up getting taken down, and I got a very mean letter from Tool's lawyers saying, stop putting this garbage out. And yeah, so I have a complicated history with that band. I did hear through the grapevine, though, that the bass player, Justin Chancellor, heard the song and thought it was funny and that he laughed. And that's like one of the biggest compliments I've ever gotten.
Yeah, absolutely.
In my life.
I think those guys have to have a pretty good sense of humor about how they're viewed and who they are. I mean,
yeah.
They don't live in an Alex Gray wonderland. They are just people. And except for maybe, I don't know. I think, what's his face? Adam,
Maynard?
Adam Jones might. Because doesn't he make like creature costumes and stuff? He might live in a dystopian nightmare.
He was in movie effects and special effects.
Yeah.
Practical effects before he did Tool, and I think he worked on both Terminator 2 and I want to say Jurassic Park was the other movie that he worked on. And,
interesting guy.
Yeah, really interesting guy.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, that's incredible. So did you get any feedback from like people that downloaded it? Were people mad when they were like...
yeah. And my friend Drew was absolutely right. People thought it was freaking Tool. They thought it was real. I had one person say, "Is this Weird Al?" And I'm like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Do you guys have
a compliment.
Ears?" I know, right? Weird Al's one of my heroes, but people thought it was legit. Oh, this is a joke, but from the band, blah blah blah. And I'm just sitting here with my head in my hands, like I cannot believe this actually worked.
Wow.
And Drew is just laughing hysterically. He's just sending me text after text of ha 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 ha. Look at this comment. Ha ha ha. He's like linking me to comments and stuff. Look at this idiot. Ha ha ha. It was surreal. It was very strange, and it was also very strange to get that letter in the mail, saying like, take this down immediately, or suffer the consequences.
How did they get your address?
Through when you created a MySpace music site, you needed a contact information. So I think that's because of situations like that. Actually, now that I think of it, but yeah, no, the internet was a very different place back then. But yeah, that's my Tool song story.
Do you still have the cease and desist letter?
I lost it in a move. Unfortunately, I know. Otherwise, I would have had a scan of it or something. But I don't know where it is. I can't find it. But yeah, no, it was from Zoo Entertainment, Volcano Entertainment, their like label, and it's addressed from like some lawyer guy with a fancy title, their legal department or something like that. And yeah, it was. I was like, what the hell is this? It's that whole experience was, and it was within a matter of days too. Like this didn't happen, over a period of like weeks or anything. They were on that like immediately, and I was like, holy shit, these people aren't kidding around. But
yeah, no doubt, dude. Like, and I guess people should be let in on it. The title of the song was the 81st Chakra of Annihilation, which is the most Tool-ass sounding name of anything I've ever heard. That might be the name of Maynard's cat.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot to say the title. I wanted to come up with the most ridiculous, like you said, Tool-sounding title. While it's the 81st Chakra of Annihilation, and it's somebody actually took it, sped it up, and re-uploaded it to YouTube for some reason. So if you want to search that, you can find it. I just bear in mind I have nothing to do with that video. I made the song. But I did not upload the video, so any weird imagery or whatever you see on it, don't associate that with me, please.
There is one from, it says Sir Weeze, the 81st Chakra of Annihilation.
That was me. Yeah, that was my name.
Nice. 12 years ago.
Music handle. It's another lifetime ago, man. I was doing different stuff.
You were big on YouTube before you were on YouTube. That's incredible.
It's just that video though, and that's not even my video.
Yeah.
But
that's so
yeah,
cool.
that was kind of my thing. Was I loved making fun of bands. Like one really, and it didn't matter how dumb it had to be. Like one other thing I did was called James Hetfield and Rob Zombie sing "Mary Had a Little Lamb."
That sounds like a Jim Brewer bit.
And that's all it was. Yeah, it was just Mary had a little lamb, and then it's just Rob Zombie going yeah. That's all he does.
Is that still around?
I have it on an external hard drive somewhere. I can if you really want to hear it, I can send it to you.
I do so bad. That's
no,
awesome.
That's what I would do though. I would just make dumb little songs like that. I made fun of Typo Negative. They had a hit song called Black Number 1. Yeah. I made a Black Number 2, which is about unfortunate bowel movements.
Oh, that's the best.
That was way back. That was when I was like 18. That was one of the first songs I made. And so the sound quality is just utter trash.
Yeah.
But
R.I.P. Peter Steele, man. What a legend.
Oh man, I that's the band. We were going to talk about concerts. Just to mention real quick, I know we're running out of time here, but that's the band I saw the most often. I was lucky enough to see Typo 4 different times.
Dang.
And they brought it every time. They're fantastic. I didn't know you liked Typo Negative.
Dude, of course.
Oh man. Yeah, Typo is one of my
says milk white neck.
It also milk white neck.
I mean, every consonant has its own room. It's great.
Yeah, Pete Steele is an absolute legend. He one quick story here. I was dating a girl back in high school. She was 17, and we went to see Typo for the first time. This would have been 99, so it was after World Coming Down came out. And, we're teenagers. It's like October, I think. It was a weekend. So we were like, let's wait outside the venue after the show and see if we can see the band. And sure enough, yeah, here comes Kenny, who's really short, by the way. There's Josh. There's Johnny, the drummer. And then here, like, a long time passes, and the door gets kicked open. Peter bellows out, "Yo!" And he's got a giant deli tray and a beautiful woman on each arm.
Of course.
And he walks down the stairs. He's got this ridiculous deli tray full of like cheese and meat and stuff.
He's like 7'8".
Yeah, he's this giant.
He's like a 7'8" Bruce Campbell.
It was just, I'll never forget that visual because I was like, holy shit, this guy looks like a freaking superhero.
Yeah.
Like, god damn.
Gone
yeah,
too
I saw
soon,
them like
man.
four times. Yeah, too soon for sure. Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, I wish I could have seen those guys.
They were great. Yeah, they played a lot of interesting cover songs. I remember one show they opened with a cover of Pink Floyd, "In the Flesh," which was awesome. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess based on the time of the show, we didn't touch on a few things. We didn't get to Radiohead. We didn't.
We barely talked about Metallica.
Didn't talk about Metallica. I didn't get to cry about how much I actually love Lateralis, and I'm upset that you don't. Like, we didn't even get to any of that. So we might have to do a part 2, which is good because who knows? We might be running out of topics before too long. So a part 2 to 90s music is probably warranted.
Yeah, I'm already thinking of other stuff we can talk about for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't even talk about the Minneapolis death metal scene, which was pretty hilarious.
Wow.
And funny.
Stay tuned to episode 2 of the 90s Music Podcast for that. I'm excited about that one. So before we get out of here, there's some listener questions that are more video game centric. So we're going to bring it all the way back from Seattle to video games here. The first one, and Alex, I don't know if I could pronounce this guy's last name. Are you familiar with John?
I am not. I recognize the name. I know he's been on Patreon for quite a while now. So thank you, John, for being a patron, and thank you for the question.
Yeah, John, I'm going to take a stab at it. Zahor, and I have no idea. There's a C in there and a Z. I went with the Z. So
Kazor, maybe. I don't know. Sorry, John.
It's a cool name, John. I like it a lot. He asks, do you play video games outside of what you play for content for the channel? That's the first question. So we'll go ahead and answer that. I do. I'm playing Rage 2 right now, and I enjoy that game a lot.
Yeah, I get hooked on certain types of games. I remember a few years ago I got absolutely obsessed with Stardew Valley, to the point that I actually did an LP for it on my channel that got like 0 views, but I loved that game. I got kind of sick of it after a while because you get to a point where you're making like $80 gazillion and you kind of run out of stuff to do. But I might come back to it later. But yeah, there's other games like Don't Starve. I'm playing that all the time. It's a survival adventure game. It's brutally difficult, but I really like it. But yeah, it's usually stuff like that, real simple stuff.
Yeah, and I do have to play a lot of other games because I chronicle all of those in my other podcast, Polykill. Like it's my homework. Like I have to play and beat games, or else there's nothing for us to talk about. So no pressure. The other half of his question is, do you play any other types of games? He says, board, tabletop, RPG, Magic, Pokemon, etc. Are you into any of that stuff? Are you social with your gaming?
Not really. No. No, I did used to play Magic the Gathering when I was a kid, when I was 11 or 12, but I thought the rules were too slow. So my childhood best friend Dan and I, we were just like, what if you just tapped mana anytime you wanted? And sure enough, like, so all of a sudden our matches are, 15 minutes long instead of, however many hours. And it was more fun that way. So, yeah. No, I outside of that, I never really played much of... Pokemon came after I was, I was too old by the time I was like 13, 14. I'm too cool for this kid stuff. So, never really got into Pokemon. But do you do any, like, tabletop stuff?
No, not really. I have some friends that are into it. I've been tempted just because, the socialization aspect. Like, if it's okay that I'm bad and get drunk, I'll do whatever you want me to do.
That's a good attitude, yeah. And we might have to do that for that potential Dungeons and Dragons podcast episode. That could be fun. I think that could work. It could be fun. It's pretty ambitious.
Yeah, we got to get a good DM. That's the big
Yeah,
thing. We got to get Vin
definitely.
Diesel. We could do it.
That's right. He's a huge fan.
We have huge clout. We can get him.
Robert Ring, our old friend. We're actually going to be appearing on his podcast. That's the Classic Gaming Podcast, available at classicgamingpodcast.com, coincidentally enough. We're going to be on there recording on Tuesday. I'm not sure when the episode will post, but we'll certainly let you know when that happens. I've known Robert for years now. He's an awesome guy. He says, I'd like to know what games you both have been the most addicted to.
Well, I can think of a couple off the top of my head. The first being one that's, no stranger to being brought up on this podcast. The NCAA football games. I think
Yes.
that was a very
Yeah.
strong addiction to the Dynasty mode.
Yeah, that was my first thought, too, was like my Madden 08 franchise that I still mess with every once in a while. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and to the point that, like, I had, the game only tracks so much in terms of your legacy. I had spreadsheets, like Google Docs, of, like, who my best players were, the schedules that year, home and aways, all of that stuff. All of the Heisman stuff. Like, I mean, I still have it. I stopped playing
That's
it, but I kept those
awesome.
spreadsheets because, like, when I come back in year 15, I'm gonna go out, to maybe a Mountain West school, try to get the Lobos on the map.
Oh, yeah.
They need
How
a
about
little
that?
love. Or go to
They
the
do,
Wyoming,
yeah,
get those Cowboys going. So, I'm very ambitious with that one. I would say another one, SimCity 4. Now, I grew up playing like all the old school SimCities, but 4 hit me right in college when I had Ethernet and I could pirate it. And so,
Yeah.
I played that a lot, like way
I had
too much.
4 too, and that was a real leap over SimCity 3000.
Yeah.
And oh man, the stuff you could do. I almost got overwhelmed by that one because there was so much stuff you could do. So I did put quite a bit of time into it, but yeah, it's definitely good. It's definitely better than the latest SimCity game from like 10 years ago. I was so looking forward to that, and it was just
All the ploppables. Oh, it breaks my heart.
Yeah, it sucks.
The city
but-
sizes were as big as, you feel like 4 houses in a water tower. That's not a city.
Right.
I never got
Yeah,
into an
that was-
MMO or any of the games, or like a, what are they called now? Battle royales. I never got into any like a live action, not live action, but like a live and everyone's doing it and it's constantly changing. I never got into any game that the heartbeat of the world was sort of focused on. I'm a very late adopter, so I don't get addicted to the things that a lot of other people are playing, unfortunately, like WoW or anything.
Same, and I deliberately stayed away from that stuff because I knew I was going to get addicted, and I knew I was going to just like waste all my free time playing it. So I just was like, you know what, I'm not even gonna. But one type of game that's, I don't know if it's kind of similar, but are real-time strategy games like Age of Mythology. I put so many hours into that game, and I still really like to just play the computer every once in a while. I'm not even that good. I just like playing as Norse. I like playing as Loki and getting the dragon and just wreaking havoc on everything. Yeah, that one is way up there. And there's 2 since you mentioned the online capability thing, there's 2 that I just thought of just now, and they're both 3DS games. And it's Mario Kart 7. I would play online against 8 or 7 other complete strangers across the world. That was super fun when that was up.
Oh, cool.
To the point that my thumbs and my hands were cramping like crazy. And similarly, there was Mario Golf on 3DS, and that had like big time tournaments. I was finishing like in the top 30. There were a couple thousand players.
Wow.
And I was getting really good at that game, and then they just shut down the online things. They stopped doing tournaments, and I'm like, well, that sucks. But yeah, I sunk a lot of time into that.
Yeah, the only other answer I could think of was I did have The Simpsons tapped out on my phone, just like the little mobile game where you build something and then wait a day and it's there, and it had me on that hook. Like, I just wanted to see all of the different Springfield items, and they just had me, man. I had to buy things with donuts. Like, if I wanted to get the bowling alley and get Barney, I'm like, God, I got to save up for 12 donuts. It's going to take me a week. I didn't spend any money, thank God, but...
Yeah, no, it's. I was just gonna say it's one of those free to play, but pay to get anything, to get any actual progress, basically. Yeah, that's how those games get you.
Every time. Well, I think if anything's been gotten, it's this podcast. I think we're about wrapping it up here. We talked about 90s music, everything from you almost joining Tool to, sadder stuff.
I don't think they
about
like me too much.
What's that?
I don't think they like me too much. I'm not sure they're that fond of me, or at least their lawyers aren't.
Justin Chancellor's a huge fan, and and Danny Carey wasn't mad. He smiles all the time. He's never frowned.
Oh, Danny Carey seems like just the nicest guy.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to meet him. I'm not usually like that, like a starstruck type person, but if I saw that guy's arms in person, I'd be like, oh my God, this guy is a beast.
Yeah, man. I'd let him sign me or whatever. But yeah, I guess that does it. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. That's been another Drunk Friend podcast. Again, be sure to check out polykill.com. You can hear Jake's Music That Makes Me podcast very soon, as well as a litany of other podcasts there, including Polykill, Tales of the Lesser Medium, the Off Kilter podcast, which I never bring up here, and, of course, more Drunk Friends. Also, and once again, remember, you can reach out to us at drunkfriendpodcast@gmail.com if you want to drop us a line, ask us a question, or anything you want.
If you'd simply like to help out the show, please remember to rate and review us wherever you listen, whether it's, whatever these podcast services are called, Bing Watch and Google Thrust, or, I don't know, there's 800,000 formats, but no matter what you listen to on, what's the right phrasing? Whatever you listen to this show on, if that makes... I'm losing it, and I need to go listen to some Soundgarden, I think. But just remember to rate and review us wherever you listen.
Yes, especially on Google Thrust. We're also on Twitter. I'm at Trav Plays Games. Alex is, of course, at SNES Drunk. And you can follow Jake at the McAxel.
And as usual, we want to give a shout-out to Coolor for the podcast music. The song that you hear at both the beginning and the end is called Electric Starbounce, and you can find a link to more of his music on the Buzzsprout podcast page.
All right, be sure to catch us all on YouTube, and thanks for listening.
And we hope you have a great rest of your day.